Ping's new G440 line is out. We've got driver, fairway woods, hybrids, irons. We got a lot to cover here, so we brought in Travis Milleman, Ping's design engineering manager. And I think we should probably start with the club that everybody loves to talk about, the driver. I've got a little bit of a sample here. It's a broken apart sample just to show everybody what some of the components are. We have a ton of new technology. We've got a ton of new features among the whole G440 family. So with the driver, let's start there. I found it interesting that something that you and I were talking about off camera, and something that we've really heard a theme throughout this whole day here at Ping, is with G440, you wanted to be able to launch higher, but maybe give people the opportunity to play lower loft, try to remove some weight to improve launch conditions, improve ball speed, carry, just give everybody more distance and better optimized numbers, right? So one of the more unique aspects about this, and I think if we can start on the inside of the club, is the free hosel. When we talk about innovation, design, trying to improve things, staying within conforming lists, how did you even think of this? Because this was, I don't think anybody has ever done this before, where if people haven't seen this at home, explain what this is, because you were able to save some weight and move center of gravity around, correct?
Yeah, we took a pretty drastic approach to look at where can we save mass in areas of the golf club that might not really be helping performance. We know that low CG is great. We've hung our hats on putting it as low as possible and as far back as possible. So we looked at areas in front of the golf club, high and forward. Where do we have a ton of mass? Right around our hosel. We've traditionally kept our trajectory tuning sleeves pretty slimmed down, right? We value having simplicity in adjustments and also having a very streamlined weight of that component. So we are one of the lightest ones out there. And we looked at structure around that sleeve that holds the sleeve. It doesn't even really functionally hold the sleeve. It just kind of captures the sleeve.
Sure.
Could we remove it, right? It's a ton of steel, titanium, metal up in that high heel region. So we did a few prototypes to see how much of that can we take away and what are the benefits. So taking it away obviously saves, I think on the driver it's around 5 grams of mass, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the design world, 5 grams is massive, especially on a driver, in an area of the club that is functionally not a great place to put mass. So it saves mass. What we're able to do with that is to lower it and put it as far back as we possibly can. It also does help to kind of liven up the heel side of the face. That structure historically did support some of the face. So we're moving on the driver titanium, that 5 grams, kind of allows the face to flex even more. So we're trying to push the conformance of how fast can our faces be, not just in the center, but heel and toe.
Sure.
So,
and this is, if I read right, this is one of the hottest faces you've ever had at Ping.
Yeah.
And part of that is because it's thinner as well, right?
Yep.
When we say a face is thinner, for someone watching at home, why does that matter? What does that really do for us?
Yeah, going thinner allows the face to flex more, right? So if you can remove face thickness, the entire structure can just bend more. The problem with that is that if it flexes too much, the COR, CT, kind of interchangeable verbiage around how hot the face can be, starts to go over the USG limit, right? So we need to make sure that all of our faces are conforming. So we actually, the center of our face is as fast as we can go in terms of that CT measurement, but our goal was, how do we make the entire face faster?
Right.
So shortening the face, we made a little bit of a face height reduction. So we went a little shorter on the face, which allows us to go thinner. So the CT reading will be the same, but we know in all of our studies and researches that going shorter and thinner is actually better for ball speed, even if CT reads the same. I like to think about it as a pencil. When you have a really long pencil and you try to break it, really easy, right? When you have a short pencil and try to break it, even if it's the exact same pencil, it's a lot harder. So when we go shorter on our faces, with that analogy, we can go thinner for the same force to bend. So it's the same CT reading that we'd have traditionally speaking, but going a little bit thinner allows more ball speed.
Okay. And then we talk about saving weight.
Yeah.
I've got this piece here, the carbon fly wrap. Now, a new change for G440. This is in all 3 models, right?
Yep.
Before it was not in all 3. It was just in the LST. Now in all of them.
Yeah.
What does that do for us as well?
It's once again massive in saving mass from an area of the club that we want to remove mass from. So titanium is 430 max driver, 430 SFT driver, both titanium crowns. removing that titanium and replacing it with composite in the way that we do it with carbon fly wrap, a single composite piece that wraps from the crown to the skirt, is a really efficient way to save mass that ultimately we've removed from an area high on the club to lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about saving weight,
Yep.
there's an opportunity to add weight in better places, right? And that's back here.
Yeah.
What did you do to the weight, and how does that impact the club and our performance as well, while still staying within the conforming limits?
Yeah, so the Max and the LST, same as G440, will have a CG shifter that you can adjust from fade biasing to draw biasing, so it's a 3-position CG shifter. The SFT will be a 2-position, so a draw and a draw plus. Try to give someone the extra help to get the ball turning over. Going lighter in the composite crown and the free hosel design allows us to go heavier in our CG shifter. What that does for us going on G430, I think we're 25 gram back weight is our kind of standard back weight. CG shifter going to 29 grams on the G440 product. It's an extra 4 grams. Once again, doesn't sound like a lot, but it functionally does perform. Kind of our estimation is that every gram you can add to where we put our CG shifter is an extra % of MOI over without having that gram. So we're definitely trying to optimize putting more mass in our back weights. I think that's not a secret. We've hung our hats on that for a long time.
Yeah.
It's because it works, right?
Yeah. And we'll all take 1% MOI. I'll take that, right?
Yes,
any benefit that we can get. So the other thing that I noticed with this too, and it kind of plays along with the whole, the general idea that we talked about, is trying to get people faster ball speeds. The standard length for the shaft, it's a quarter of an inch longer. How does that factor in as well, and how does that improve numbers for us?
Yeah, it was kind of just adding a quarter inch is not the whole story.
Okay.
So we went a quarter inch longer, but we also wanted to maintain our same swing weights. So having a D3 swing weight on a Max driver means we had to go a little bit lighter on the head mass.
Okay.
And like I just talked about, 1 extra gram in the back weight is better for MOI. We have traditionally had heavier heads because we value high MOI. So making the club a quarter inch longer, we had to go a couple grams lighter in the head. So we went 3 grams lighter on the head side, knowing that that total system would provide more speed. So that quarter inch longer, the head's 3 grams lighter, the shaft in total is 7 grams lighter. So the whole system is 10 grams lighter. So it's longer, it's lighter, and ultimately what that helps the consumer do is just swing it faster and get more ball speed.
We can all use that.
Yeah,
right.
Agreed. In the driver and fairway woods, we have a Max, an SFT, and LST, which are directionally biased. So LST is the farthest right, lowest spin. Max is the highest, or middle ground, and SFT is the highest spin, most draw bias. In our hybrids, we have just 1 set of hybrids, but we designed the 2 and 3 to be a little bit more fade biased. The 4 and 5 hybrids to be pretty neutral, and the 6 and 7, we want those things to get in the air and turn left. I like to equate it to our Max, LST, SFT, but we boil that into just 1 hybrid line.
Okay.
But I think that, so why we added a 4-wood was we found, like Adam said, like a 3-wood, 5-wood combo has been a pretty traditional thing. With the rise of higher lofted fairway woods to replace hybrids, has been this adoption to have kind of better fit fairway woods. People have always just bought a 3.5.
Right.
Just ship it, right?
Yeah.
I think 4-woods are probably a better fit for the mass majority of consumers, just to help get the ball in the air.
Okay.
3-woods are kind of hard to hit for a lot of consumers, right?
Yeah.
People have a hard time hitting 3-woods, so 4-woods just a little bit more loft, get the ball in the air. And then we think that's going to pair really well with the 7-wood. So we've made purposeful gapping decisions between a 3 and a 5. So we've added loft to the 5 to make a 3.5 work, and we've put a 4-wood in to make a 4.7 work. A 5.9 for a slower club head speed also could be really efficient.
Sure.
And then looking at fairway woods to hybrids to irons, we've designed in making sure that we have trajectory differences. So fairway wood should be your highest flying peak height for the most stopping power. If you're looking at a 7-wood versus a hybrid is probably a little bit more moderate, and irons, due to the length and the shafts, are going to be your lowest flying. So we have a ton of good options. If you have a hard time getting the 5-iron in the air, a hybrid's great. If you still need more help getting in the air, a hybrid's great, or a fairway wood's great. So it's all about finding your stopping power you need at that specific distance, and we have a ton of options in that space.
Well, not only a ton of options with just the 4-wood, the hybrids, whatever you have in there, the adjustability too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, on the hosel now, there's adjustability within the fairway woods and hybrids and everything. I mean, does that help with gapping as well? Is that part of why that even exists?
Sure. Yes, we value letting you do it in a simple way. And if you just need a little bit more loft on the 3-wood, you can throw it in the small plus and it goes from 15 degrees to 16 degrees. Or if you have a 7-wood, you go from 17, or sorry, a 4-wood, you go from 17 to 16. It's just giving the end user a little bit more refinement for their game. Obviously, we recommend everyone to go in and get fit, but the fitters themselves will use these positions as well to dial in kind of your micro positions. So.
Okay. So you've got a fairway wood in your hand. There's a lot of similarities there with some of the technology we went over, but one difference between the fairway wood and the driver is we talked about the face. Now this one is a little bit more shallow.
Yep.
You actually did the opposite on the fairway wood. Why is that?
Yeah, it all goes down to where we started this project was where do people use their fairway woods and what could we do better on 440 compared to 430. We love 430. I think the fairway woods and 430 have done really well for us. It's been a really popular model on the PGA Tour, in consumer worlds as well. I think the one area of opportunity we've heard is, I wish the face was taller. And we, as the design team, have kept the faces shallow to lower the CG. It's a really good way. It's hard to have a high CG if the face is short, right?
Sure.
So trying to lower the face. What we did with 440 was look at where do people actually use their fairway woods. And we found that it's a really cool chart. Our partnership with Arcos, we found that if you hit the ball 200 yards off the tee, you're probably gonna hit your fairway wood off the turf most of the time. So we need to keep our fairway woods shallow for the people that are gonna be those consumers. The LST consumers of the world, the fast club head speeds, they're gonna use the fairway wood off the tee a lot, right? So that's been the vocal consumer that we've been listening to is people that desire to hit it off the tee a little bit easier, but we know we have to make fairway woods perform in a variety of situations, right? I think that's the hard part about designing fairway woods is people expect them to be good off the tee, off the turf, everywhere. It's not just a one-trick pony. So with 440, free hosel design was massive to save mass. Once again, in an area that's high on the club that we can use to free up 11 grams on the fairway wood. It's steel, so removing steel that's a lot denser material than a titanium you have in your hand. So removing that structure in the fairway wood allowed us to save 11 grams. And what we did with the fairway wood was we just actually grew the face height basically 1 for 1.
Okay.
Every gram we saved in the heel, in the hosel, we grew the face. So we were able to deliver the consumer the same, if not a little bit better performance off the ground, off the turf, but give them a little bit more confidence off the tee. Allow them to have a little bit more tee height forgiveness.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then hybrids are somewhat in the same realm of the fairway woods, but again, difference, it's not a higher face, it's a shallow face on the hybrids as well. So how do we experience that, I guess, because we're not hitting hybrids off the tee as much, it's more about turf interaction? I
think with the hybrids, we've been historically a little bit better positioned in terms of getting really good launch conditions. Our 430 hybrids do really well because they're hot, they're fast, they're a really good flight. What we want to do with the hybrids is just get higher peak height. When we want to get higher peak height, higher trajectory, the best way to do that is to lower the CG. Lowering the CG allows us to get higher launch conditions, more ball speed, and lower spin. So we actually found we can make the faces shallower on 440 on the hybrid. We made them thinner. Remember that pencil analogy? So we made them thinner as well. And we actually were able to add more loft to the hybrids to get the ball to get in the air a little bit easier. So free hosel design, carbon fly wrap, both help augment getting the CG lower so we can add loft without actually losing any ball speed. So the ball speed from a 433 hybrid to a 443 hybrid, even though the 440 has a degree more of loft, ball speeds have been the same in all of our testing. It just achieves a higher peak height because it's launching higher. Okay.
And then iron, we're similar story with the irons where it's a shallower face. Is part of that with the irons a feel thing or a look for players where it's maybe a little bit more of a player's design club and it's not bulky?
Yeah, we're definitely trying to cater to the a player's inspired look, but packing it with G level of forgiveness. So making the top rail, the top of the face a little bit shallower allowed us to save mass, right? We can make the faces thinner, save mass from an area high on the face to lower the CG pretty drastically. Once again, that just helps us get the ball in the air and also to address, people have commented, hey, this looks more of a player's style club, but I will guarantee you it is packed with G-level forgiveness and speed.
Yeah, we saw that out in the proving grounds. I actually play I-530 irons, but I hit the G440 iron. And my comment was, the feel was outstanding, and it wasn't a bulky club. It felt like like you said, a player-inspired iron.
Yep.
And then I noticed that ball speed was up a little bit, and I really wasn't looking to crush it, but the I-530 is going to go, it's a player's distance iron,
Yep.
going to go a little bit farther. But even with the G440, with just the conditions that I had, and launch, carry, ball speed, I was creeping up to those numbers, so I felt that as well, yeah.
Every time I hit the G440 product, I play Blueprint S right now.
Okay.
Every time I hit G440, I'm wondering, why am I not playing this?
I asked myself the same thing. Yeah, I just got those clubs too. I was like, wait a minute, do I need to switch? I think people are interested in all of this innovation and, pulling mass out of the hosel. When you look at this stuff, how do you go from the 430 to this? And the G440 to say, hey, we need to, this was a wildly successful club for us in the G430, but there's still areas where we could improve. How do you get to this point where you start to tinker and say, hey, we can take this out of here, we can put it back here? Yeah. Is that just trial and error?
We have from the engineering side, we have a very, very comprehensive knowledge library of how golf physics works, right? So knowing when you lower CG in a driver, it does this. In an iron, it does this. And so when we're looking at how does 430 perform, right? We definitely take notes on what we wanted to do better in 430 and how we think we could further improve performance, and then take a look at, okay, what new technologies can we implement? Free hosel design is a great example.
Yep.
That went hand in hand with, we want to lower CG. That is a huge goal for us right now. Moving mass from high in the heel to low is a super easy way to lower the CG. So we definitely cater our research around areas that we want to be better in, right? So on the design team, we have an innovation team, we have a golf physics team, golf science team is what we call it. And we ask them, hey, this is where we want to head. Can you think of ways to improve in these areas so that we can then implement those in our designs? Is
some of that I don't want to use the word to get around the conforming aspects of it, but I think ways to improve the numbers while still staying conforming, is that where the main challenge is? Of, this face is hotter and thinner, but there's a certain level that we have to stop at. How do we improve on that? Is that really the challenge of trying to figure out other ways to improve every year?
Everyone plays in the same sandbox, right?
Yeah.
So we know where the limits are, and everyone is trying to optimize and maximize their performance within those limits. I think Ping, we hang our hat on optimizing total forgiveness of a golf club as a really good way to improve someone's performance. But we also know that speed is important. We need to get fast. So I think 440 is a great example. On the driver specifically, we're very forgiving. We have a very forgiving trio of clubs, but how do we get faster?
Yeah.
So going longer, capping, we're going up to 46 inches. We need to go a little bit lighter if we're going to do that. And we've definitely taken the strokes gained approach of how do we get better on-course performance, because I think it's great to show, hey, 15% MOI, right? That's great. That's going to be great for consumers, and it is. MOI, in all of our studies, higher MOI is always better than lower MOI.
Sure.
Right? But looking at how do we get more speed has been our new frontier in the last, actually as long as I've been here. We always are trying to get faster and try to find ways to maximize MOI and get faster.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is I think without sacrificing MOI, right? And continuing to improve on the ball speeds, but still staying true to who you are. Yeah. Well, the new G440 line from Ping, faster ball speeds, not sacrificing MOI. These are outstanding new clubs, a ton of new technology and differences from the past iterations as well.